Hello, football fans, and welcome to Queen City Football. Today, we're going to be talking about the Week 14 matchup of the Panthers and the Eagles. And before we get into the game, I want to talk about where these two teams rank on offense and defense. Starting off with the Eagles, in total defense, ranked number 1 overall. Passing defense, they're number 3, and rushing defense, they're number 7. So they're obviously no slouch. And then we look at the Panthers defense, who has not performed very well this year. Considering all of the injuries, it's not horrible, but we're still looking real bad. Coming in, total defense at number 31, passing defense at 25, and rushing defense at 32. And I kept this one separate because I think it's very important for this game. Red zone defense. Eagles ranked number 4, and the Panthers ranked number 25. And it really showed when you looked at the game, especially the red zone percentages. And taking a look at the offensive rankings for both teams, starting with the Eagles, again on total offense, number 1, which means they rank number 1 in total defense and total offense. Their passing offense hasn't been that great this year at number 28, but their rushing offense is carrying behind the legs of Saquon Barkley, leading the league in rushing. To the Panthers, total offense were ranked 30th, passing offense 29th, right behind the Eagles at 28, and rushing offense 24th. Now, I wouldn't say we're doing too bad on the ground. We're averaging just about 100 yards a game on the ground, which is pretty good. At least I would think. But there are obviously teams doing it much better than us. And then I kept this separate again because I think it was very telling for this game. Red zone offense. Eagles come in ranked 14th, and the Panthers just a little bit behind at 17th. But when you compare the red zone defense and offense, with the Eagles having the 4th overall red zone defense, it really showed. As I said, we couldn't finish drives too well in the red zone. We did score a couple of touchdowns in the red zone, but we came away with some field goals when I thought we could have finished the drive. Alright, now that we talked about the overall rankings for offense and defense, let's take a look at some of the key players on both sides of the field. Starting off with the Eagles and their MVP hopeful, Saquon Barkley, the spearhead of this team, leading the league in rushing with 1,499 yards coming into this game. He was going to be a key emphasis point for our defense. We are the worst rushing defense in the league. So not being able to stop him was going to be a nightmare for our defense. And then we move on to their signal caller, Jalen Hurts, who's just as scary on the ground as he is through the air, if not more. And his two favorite targets, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. A.J. Brown, a threat to catch anything that's thrown his way, leading their team in passing yards with 836, and Devonta Smith, a speedster who's a threat in the screen game and the deep ball. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles, there are 3 players that we really needed to look out for. Zach Bond, their leading tackler with 129. He's a run-stuffing linebacker who can play the pass very well. Then, their star safety, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who leads their team in interceptions with 3. And the biggest name on their defense, who showed us why they call him Big Play Slay, Darius Slay, who, as I said, at the very end of the game, made his presence known. Alright, now let's get into the reason you clicked on this video. If you aren't just one of my friends showing some support, I see you guys out there and I appreciate it. The game. Starting off with the first quarter, it was a slow start for both teams, a defensive stalemate, I would say, with 2 punts coming from each team. And at the end of the first quarter, the Panthers finally got on the scoreboard with a field goal. The big thing that came out of the first quarter, though, was the rookie running back for the Panthers, who we had a lot of hope for, went down with an injury towards the end of the first quarter, leaving Chuba Hubbard to be our only active running back on the roster today. This was big. Chuba Hubbard had already carried the football a lot in the first quarter, and now he was going to have to carry it all alone on his back. And while the first quarter made it look like it was going to be a defensive showdown with a low-scoring game, the Eagles put a stop to that quick, leaning on Saquon Barkley in their first drive of the second quarter and capping off a 10-play, 70-yard drive with a Jalen Hurts tush-push 1-yard touchdown. And this showed cracks in our defense against Saquon Barkley. He gashed us a few times on this drive, and Jalen Hurts also showed escapability against our defensive line, who just couldn't seem to bring him down, even when we had him boxed in. He made a few throws on the run that should have been sacks. He also got rid of the ball on the sideline when it should have been a sack. Luckily, the Panthers didn't let this get out of hand, answering back with an amazing drive out of Bryce Young. And even with Chuba Hubbard being the only running back available for the Panthers, still leaning on him, the connection between Bryce Young and Adam Thielen had obviously not faded, and it showed on this drive. And we capped it off by Dave Canales wanting us to go for it on the 3 on 4th down, and us converting with a 3-yard pass from Bryce Young to Tommy Tremble to get into the end zone. And after that long scoring drive, the Panthers defense showed up, forced a 3-and-out out of the Eagles, didn't let Saquon Barkley just walk all over us like he seemed to want to do, and got the ball back right before half. 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go. All that there is to do is have another slow, methodical drive or run out the clock and get into halftime with the lead. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Bryce Young, with his first pick in over 120 snaps, right before half, gives the ball back to the Eagles, and they go down and score a touchdown. The score going into half, 14-10. And it should have been 13-7, 10-7, or even better yet, 17-7. But Bryce Young under pressure floated one for Adam Thielen, and Darius Slay showed us why he is a star and picked off Bryce Young. And going into halftime, this looked like a game the Panthers could win. And the stats backed me up on that claim. The Panthers leading the total yards by 3, 149 to 146. And having tied them in first downs, both teams having 9. Dominating the time of possession by almost 8 minutes. The big problem was that interception. It really swung the tide. With the Eagles getting the ball back in the second half, it was going to be big for us to come out of the second half and get a stop and not let this game slip through our fingertips. But before we get into the second half, let's circle back and look at some of those key players we were talking about before the game. In the passing battle, Bryce Young, 7 for 14, 86 yards, a touchdown, and that interception. Jalen Hurts, 9 for 14 for only 70 yards and a touchdown, and the rushing touchdown. So, Bryce Young leading in yards, but Jalen Hurts leading his team to 2 touchdowns. That's the big difference in the game so far. Moving over to the rushing battle, which is a huge part of this game for both teams. Chuba Hubbard with 15 carries and 63 yards. Saquon Barkley with 9 carries and 49 yards. Chuba Hubbard is leading right now, but he does also have 6 more carries. But, again, we love to see that out of Chuba Hubbard, especially when he's the only running back available for the Panthers. And I will keep saying that because that was a big deal halfway through this game. And for the last 2 players, let's look at the receiving battle. Adam Thielen and Devonta Smith are leading for their respective teams. Adam Thielen for the Panthers with 3 receptions and 48 yards, and Devonta Smith with 3 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown. Adam Thielen winning the yard battle, but Devonta Smith has that extra touchdown. Those are the stats that I thought were important, and what I thought was important going into the third quarter. Now, let's actually talk about the third quarter. And coming out of the half, the Eagles got the ball first. And the defense came up with a huge stop, forcing a long 52-yard field goal out of Jake Elliott, which he missed, giving the Panthers a chance to take back the lead and momentum in the game, which they happily did. This was a long drive, and this drive was actually the reason I decided to do this video this way. It was a 12-play, 58-yard drive, taking 7 minutes and 53 seconds off the clock. And after getting into Eagles territory, with a free play on 3rd and 13, Bryce Young takes a shot at Xavier Legette in the end zone. It's incomplete, but it sets up 3rd and shorter, or 3rd and manageable. A pass short to Chuba Hubbard gets it to 4th and 2, and on this play, we got Lady Luck on our side. As Bryce Young tries to sling it into the end zone, it gets batted at the line and bounces right into Adam Thielen's hand in between 3 defenders. This play had me so hype. That got us into the 1st and goal range and also kept our drive alive. If we wouldn't have gotten that, this game probably wouldn't have even been close. And then we capped it off with Chuba Hubbard touchdown run. A beautiful drive, taking a bunch of time off the clock and forcing the Eagles to do something. Which on the more unfortunate end, they did do and answered with an 8-play, 70-yard drive, but only taking 4 minutes off the clock. They were making it look really easy out there. All of their drives seemed to be much shorter than ours, which I'm not mad at. I like our methodical approach, but they were just breaking runs left and right with Saquon Barkley. And it ended with a horrible defensive play where we had Jalen Hurts in the backfield, and he gets away and rushes for 35 yards to end the 3rd quarter. And it was topped off by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to make it 22-16. This is where this game got exciting and very stressful. After the touchdown, the Panthers could not answer after driving down the field in another long methodical drive, failed to get a 4th down. While the 4th downs had been working for us so far in the game, this was our first failure with an incomplete pass to Xavier Legette, giving the Eagles the ball back. Fortunately, the defense played very well for how low they're ranked and stopped the Eagles and forced them to punt with a huge sack on a 3rd down. They took the penalty trying to get us off sides and pinned us deep in their own territory. The final drive of the Panthers was heart-wrenching. It started off on the 3-yard line, and after not getting anything on the first 2 plays, almost sacked and almost stepping out of bounds in the back of the end zone, Bryce Young comes through and throws a 31-yard dart to Xavier Legette, finally showing up for the day and getting the drive going. After that pass to Xavier Legette, we go forward on 4th down again, 4th and 7, a little bit later, further down the field, and complete it to, once again, the reliable Adam Thielen for 13 yards. Just ripping my heart out every play. We keep it going with no huddle. Another pass to Thielen for 6 yards. And then the saddest play ever. I thought we had won. Deep ball over the middle to Xavier Legette. Looks like a touchdown to me, but with the new camera angle, he did not secure the ball. And then, 3rd down, incomplete pass. Gotta go for it again on 4th down, and a problem showed its head that had been happening all game. With no more timeouts left, a delay of game on 4th and 4, pushing us back to 4th and 9, and Darius Slay breaks up a pass after Bryce Young's valiant effort to get out of the pocket away from pressure. to Adam Thielen. All the way across the field, Darius Slay swats it down. And that's it. Game over. Eagles run out the clock. Final score 16-22. And that ending was very sad, just like the last two games have been against Tampa Bay and the Chiefs. I felt like the Eagles gave us a lot of opportunity to win this game. And I think if we wouldn't have turned over on downs the drive before and just kicked the field goal, we could have played this a little bit smarter and maybe taken them to overtime. With the way our offense was moving the football, yeah, we relied on a few flukes with fourth down, but I think in overtime we might have been able to steal it from them, honestly. Saquon Barkley broke the Eagles' single-season rushing record held by LaShawn McCoy during this game. And Chuba Hubbard, on the other side of it, also got his first career 1,000-yard rushing season. Overall, I'm really happy with what I saw today, and I hope other Panthers fans are too. There are very few moral victories in the NFL, and this is one of them. It's a lose-win situation. We lost, but once again, against one of the best teams in the league, we brought them down to the wire. We may have lost, but we showed that we have promise. And maybe next year, these kind of games we'll take for ourselves. All right, Queen City, that's going to do it for the Panthers-Eagles game review. I tried a new style this week with this game, just the way I talked about it, how I broke it down. I will be trying different styles for the next couple games, well, the last couple games for the Panthers, but I do hope you enjoyed this video. And to anyone out there that did make it this far, I really appreciate it. And if you would, leave a like and maybe even subscribe. There's a long journey ahead of me here, and maybe you'll join me as we follow the Panthers and hopefully their ascension to greatness. And finally, as always, keep pounding, Charlotte.